All right, guys. Sorry for the mix-up. I guess the last video had no sound, so I didn't realize that there was no sound. Someone said it in the chat, and I misunderstood them, but no one else was saying it, so I was assuming that everyone else heard it. But let's do this again. So here's a text message I have from my source, and my source has a mutual friend of Eddie Reynoso, and there's a person in the camp. He's a doctor. He's a close friend of Eddie Reynoso. He actually suggested to Eddie that Canelo fight Kovalev before that fight took place, and that fight ended up happening. And my source, who is the mutual friend of that doctor, uh, had told Eric and myself that Kovalev was next, and lo and behold, Kovalev was next. And he was right before, too, about Danny Jacobs when Canelo was getting ready to fight Danny Jacobs. So this is the conversation, the text message conversation I had with my source. I asked him if Canelo was fighting Charlo next. He said, I don't think so. Charlo doesn't have anything to offer, and I don't think Heyman will guarantee more than $40 million to Canelo. He says they are looking Makabu, Bivol, or Smith. That's what they told me, meaning the people that he's talking to over there. All right. So my source does have direct contact with a member in Canelo's team. He's more along the lines of an advisor. He's also a doctor. He helps him out with his nutrition and stuff. So Mike Coppinger, once again, was capping and reported that they were in talks with Charlo, and Eddie Reynoso came out recently on social media and said they haven't talked to anyone. They haven't sat down with anyone. So once again, Mike Coppinger, I like to call him Mike Cappinger, is full of shit, right? So my source has been pretty much accurate all along when it comes to Canelo, right? And Mike Coppinger has not been accurate. He told us many times fights were going to happen. Crawford Pacquiao, he said, was done. It was guaranteed. He was one of the biggest guys out there with the megahorn telling us that Joshua Fury was definitely done, when I kept telling you guys that it wasn't going to happen, right? And other people have called Cap out, saying he's fast and loose with the information. Dan Raphael is one of them. Kevin Iole. A lot of people have called Coppinger out, right? And he's full of shit. He's full of shit. So I believe my source before I believe Coppinger, because my source has a better track record. Okay? My source talks to one of Eddie Reynoso's closest friends, and he's been right. He's been right. So for Coppinger to come out, Coppinger, someone in Team Charlo sends out an email to Team Canelo, and they don't get any response back. But Coppinger considers that they're in talks. That's one-way communication, right? That's one-way communication. Because Eddie Reynoso has said that they haven't sat down with anyone yet, and they're getting ready to sit down with someone very shortly, next week or so, right? And Canelo also came out and went on record saying he's going to allow Eddie Reynoso to choose his next opponent, right? So you can say, well, Bivol, not Bivol, Joe Smith and Makabu are fighting this month. How are they going to be ready for May? It's a quick turnaround, I get you. But Kovalev fought in August of 2019, and he went ahead and fought Canelo in November of 2019 later that year. So that was a quick turnaround too. So if the money's right, I guess fighters will do what they got to do. I know that Joe Smith come out and said that he'd be ready for May, but I think it's going to be Bivol. I can guarantee you it's not going to be Charlo. I can guarantee you it's not going to be Charlo. Cop is full of shit. Cop is definitely full of shit. I think it's going to be Bivol. I think they're putting the Makabu thing on the back burner. What they really want to do is unify at 175. I think they'll go with Bivol first, Joe Smith second, and then have the crescendo at the end, cherry on top. Uh, Archer better be 2 belts versus 2 belts for all the marbles, for undisputed, right? Because Charlo has nothing to offer. And again, I don't hate the Charlo fight. If it, I don't think that would be a horrible fight. But PBC don't have the money. Canelo's going to want 40 million again. Charlo's going to want 10 million that Plant got, and Fox just isn't going to put that money up. They're just not going to do it a second time. The reason why they did it the first time was because that fight had significance. At least Plant was a champion. That fight was for undisputed. There was a story to that fight. Charlo's never fought anyone at 168. I mean, if he had some good wins under his belt, then that would be a different story. But at least Plant was a champion. It was for undisputed. Canelo was going to be the first Mexican to ever be an undisputed 168-pound champion. No one's ever done it before. No Hispanic fighter's ever done it before, right? No Mexican fighter's ever done it before. And he was the first to do it. So that fight had significance. It had story. It had history. Charlo fight has nothing. So there's no way that PBC is going to be able to put that money up and get that money from Fox. It's just impossible. It's just impossible, right? And Al Heyman, everyone loves to say how great of a businessman Al Heyman is, but he's very vindictive. He doesn't like Eddie Hearn. He holds grudges. So for that fight to work, it would have to be on DAZN because Eddie Hearn's got the funds. He's got more funds at his disposal than Al Heyman does. It would have to be a DAZN fight, and there's no way that Charlo would go fight on DAZN. There's no way Heyman would let him go fight on DAZN. And you can argue, well, Andy Ruiz was a PBC fighter, and he went on DAZN, and he was allowed to fight Joshua. Okay, that was a while ago. This feud between Eddie Hearn and Al Heyman has intensified, right? It's intensified. It's gotten bad. It's gotten worse than it was. And you see how Leonard Ellaby's coming out and saying like he wants to punch Eddie Hearn in the face and all this and that. So the bad blood has gotten worse, and it's going to be very hard to see PBC fighters cross the street, particularly against Matchroom fighters, DAZN fighters. So it is what it is. Once again, Mike Cappinger, right? Mike Cappinger, or I should say Mike Coppinger. Mike Coppinger selling us wolf tickets, blowing smoke, full of shit once again. And I just think that he's trying to grab a headline here. I'll put my so this is my source telling me that Charlo is not even in the equation, right? And the fact that they're saying that there was talks, or Coppinger was saying that there was talks, when Eddie Reynoso came out on social media and said they haven't talked to anyone yet, and they will start talks next week. So, Coppinger, how he's allowed to do what he does, how he's allowed to get away with this, how he is allowed to still work for ESPN, how Max Kellerman has him on his show. This is just an example of how bad the boxing media is right now. And he has his own fellow reporters calling him out and criticizing him. Dan Raphael, Kevin Iole. Eddie Hearns called him out and said, you're reporting something that's not even true. We all saw Bob Arum go at him. He's a PBC shill. It's pretty obvious. A lot of these media guys out here today, they're not even journalists anymore. They've turned into PR people, and Coppinger is a PBC PR person. And they're just trying to hype up Charlo here, put a headline out there, because Charlo probably will be fighting soon. And this is what it is. This is what it is. D-Style wants to know the source. He came on a little bit late, and I will reveal him the source. So there's a doctor who's a very close friend of Eddie Reynoso. I know a friend of that doctor. So I know a mutual friend this guy's a mutual friend of a person that I talked to and who's been right before that Eric and I have used for a source when it comes to Canelo. And he's a close friend of Eddie Reynoso, and he had said that Charlo's not even in the equation. They're looking for Makabu, Bivol, or Smith. So Charlo is not even in the equation. I can guarantee he's not going to fight Charlo next. That's how strongly I believe my source, because this was the source that told Eric and I that Kovalev was going to be next for Canelo when that was being talked about. And he confirmed it, and he put it out there, and he put out there that Canelo was going to fight Jacob. So this guy's been right. So Eric and I go with him. So as a guy, is a doctor who even suggested to Eddie Reynoso that Canelo fight Kovalev, and he ended up fighting Kovalev. So it's a friend of a friend, and Eric and I talk to this guy regularly, and he's been right regularly. So that's the source. So it is what it is. So I guarantee you it's not Charlo next for many reasons. Like I explained, the money's not going to be there, right? PBC's not going to put up the guarantee that both fighters are going to want. It's not the same situation that it was, like I told you before. I'm going to repeat it for the people who are coming on late. That fight with Canelo and Plant was history. You can argue all you want how good of a champion Plant was, but he was part of history. That was the first time that a Hispanic Mexican super middleweight was undisputed ever. First time. And I believe that was the first time that division in the four belt era was ever fully unified. That was the first four belt undisputed fight at 168 pounds. So there was history. There was a story of the fight. Fight with Charlo has no story. Charlo hasn't even fought at 168. Won't fight Benavidez, or saying he won't fight Benavidez, right? Plant wants to fight him. Let's see if that happens. And again, I'm not here to insult fighters, call them names, question their heart, whatever. But behavior is proof. If a fighter constantly calls out a big name and he doesn't fight him, and he never fights those guys he's calling out, then, behavior is proof. We have to it is what it is, right? We have to call it for what it is. We have to look at it for what it is, right? And if Eddie Reynoso is coming out on social media telling you that he hasn't talked to anyone, and you got Coppinger out here lying because someone sent an email out to Canelo's team, one-way communication, and Eddie Reynoso is telling you that they haven't talked to anyone, but Charlo, but supposedly, according to Coppinger, Charlo's team is in talks with Eddie Reynoso, which was total false bullshit. Okay, so Coppinger, who has lied in the past, who has sold us wolf tickets in the past, he's lying again. He's lying again. Okay, but the Charlos never fought Andrade either. Neither Charlo, when Demetrius Andrade was a champion at 154, neither Charlo fought him, and they were supposed to fight him, right? So people are questioning why Canelo never fought either one of the Charlos. So we can't criticize Jermell now, because at least Jermell is trying to fight for undisputed. But once again, he's fighting PBC fighters, so of course those fights are easy to make. Got to give Plant credit, because he actually crossed the street and he fought to win the fight. I thought he was competitive. I thought he did the best he could. It is what it is. But I can guarantee you that fight with Charlo is not happening next. I can guarantee you that. And I can guarantee you that they haven't even sat down with them. Coppinger is lying. He's full of shit. He's full of shit. I can guarantee you that. And like I said, I just think it's going to be a long time before we see a PBC fighter fight Canelo now. I just think I think the money is starting to wear thin over there. That's why you're seeing all these fights on pay-per-view, right? And they're not going to be able to continuously give Canelo the guarantee that he's going to be asking for. Just not going to happen. And at least over at the zone, Eddie Hearn's got more funds at his disposal. I know Canelo's still a free agent, but I think that other platforms will be able to pay Canelo a lot easier than PBC would. Because, like I told you, all those fights, we're going to have probably 10 or 12 pay-per-views over there because, again, Fox and Showtime are not able to put up the money to pay the full purses anymore for these fights. They're just not. They're just not. So they're saying, you guys get the rest of the revenue on pay-per-view. And I've been saying that for a while now. So that's all I got for now, guys. Once again, show you my source, communication I had with my source. And Makabu, Bivol, and Smith are the three names. That's what they told me, according to my source. So Charlo's not even in the equation. No talks were even no talks even took place. Didn't Espinosa make some comments suggesting Canelo was coming back to Showtime? When? Who told you that? No, I never heard that. I heard him say, "I'm glad to see Canelo back on Showtime for that fight." I never heard him say he was coming back. They were trying. Wasn't the rumor that PBC was trying to get a two fight deal and he wouldn't do it? So here's the thing, guys. If Canelo was really, really going to fight Charlo next, use your head a little bit. I'm not trying to be insulting to anyone. Wouldn't he have signed a 2-fight deal at least, or a 2 or 3 fight deal? If that was the intention. But again, Canelo knows that if he shops himself around, Eddie Reynoso knows that if he shops himself around, that they can get big offers from other platforms, right? There's no way PBC is going to be able to pay him $40 million twice in a row, and then pay the opponent. Charlo's going to want $10 million, just like Plant did. He ain't going to get it. But I'll tell you one thing: Joe Smith would take less than $10 million to fight Canelo. I can almost guarantee you that, in my opinion. So would Bivol. So would Beterbiev. So would Makabu. They'd be happy. Getting $5 million, I would guess. Still be the biggest payday of their career, because I honestly believe they think they can win the fight. I question whether Charlo thinks he can win the fight, because he's calling out all these big names, but he never fights them. Behavior is proof. I'd love to see Charlo move up and fight Benavidez, fight Plant. That's what I'd like to see. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm hoping that happens. I just don't think it will. Till this guy gets in there with another big name, I'm going to have to question that. Yeah, exactly. Very good point. JC says, if Canelo gets $40 more million from PBC, Floyd going to, of course. It's not a coincidence Floyd's talking all that shit now, or didn't start talking all that shit about Canelo until Canelo fought on PBC and got that $40 million and became undisputed, right? That's when Floyd started taking shots. That's when Ellerby started taking shots at Eddie Hearn, right? They're all in their feelings over there, man. Like I told you, everyone loves to say how great, not everyone, but a lot of these fanboys here on YouTube love to say how great of a businessman Al Heyman is, but he's a very vindictive person. Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn, they don't have to love everyone that they work with, but if the fight makes sense, if the business makes sense, they'll do it. Al Heyman won't work with friggin' Eddie Hearn because he doesn't like him. Eddie Hearn's come out and said that they don't like me over at PBC. And it's gotten worse. It all started with the Deontay Wilder Joshua thing, but it's even gotten worse from then. You got friggin' Ellerby threatening to punch Eddie Hearn in the face. All right? I'd love to be a fly on the wall during, listening to them talk about Eddie Hearn and potential fights with Eddie Hearn fighters. All right? And for the Canelo fight to happen, Canelo had to be a free agent. He had to go over there to fight. So just think about it, guys. Just think about it. But that Charlo fight's it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It means nothing. There's no significance to it. It's got nothing Canelo needs. They're not going to be able to pay him. They're just not. There's just no way that fight gets done. There's just no way that fight gets done. The only way that fight could get done and work is it'd have to be on the zone. Because the zone would put the cash up. The zone would, Eddie Hearn would be able to pay both fighters because of the DAZN money. It's just that simple, guys. My opinion, it's going to be Bivol next. Because as much as I like Joe Smith and I know he would take the fight, I don't think he'd be ready because it is a quick turnaround. But Joe Smith tends to take a lot of punches. Usually, almost always gets busted up in fights or gets cut in fights. Never goes through a fight unscathed totally. As much as I like to watch the guy fight, as much as I respect the guy, does get hit a lot, does take punishment. I'm not sure his body will be ready for May. Makabu, again, I think they're putting that cruiserweight thing on the back burner for now. I think their goal is going to be to unify at 175. So I think this is how it's going to be, in my opinion. It's going to be Bivol next, then Smith, then better be for all the marbles, cherry on top, 2 belts versus 2 belts. That's how I think it's going to play out, in my opinion. Yeah, Maestro, you're correct. You're correct. He is fighting a guy who's Joe Smith is fighting a guy who is not going to be the stiffest of competition, but he does tend to get hit a lot, man. He does tend to get hit a lot. So I'm not saying he's totally out of the equation, Joe Smith. My opinion, it's either going to be Smith or Bivol next. I'm saying it's going to be Bivol. I don't think it's going to be Makabu. I just don't think it's going to be Makabu. But I'm guaranteeing you it's not going to be Charlo. That is, from what I'm being told by my source, it's definitely not Charlo. It's definitely not Charlo. It's definitely not Charlo. Here's the text message exchange between me and my source. Obviously, I'm not going to put the name out there because I don't like doxing people. Right? If they want to come out and reveal their name, that's up to them. But this is my source. Coppridge is not going to show you his source. I show you my source. And if I get my source directly from somebody, I try to get it on recording so I could play it for you. So it is what it is, guys. It is what it is. Coppinger is capping once again. Definitely capping once again. And it's amazing how he'll come out and say something. And then Eddie Reynoso will come out and say, we never talked to anyone. So how could there be talks if Eddie Reynoso says we haven't talked to anyone yet? We haven't even sat down with anyone yet. How is that even possible? How's that even possible? It's ridiculous that he would even come out and say that. It really is. All right, guys, that's all I got. Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. And just be careful who you believe out there. Coppinger has a track record for selling wolf tickets. right? And he's put information out there that's been called out by not only other boxing writers but promoters himself, and he still continues to do what he does. Bob Arum threw him out of a press scrum, right? He's a PBC fanboy, Coppinger. He's got his little friends over there at PBC, and all he's doing right now is trying to hype up Charlo, because Charlo's going to be fighting soon. So trying to get trying to get a little buzz around Charlo for his next fight, but he's not fighting Canelo next, guys. Guaranteed not fighting Canelo next. Not happening. It's going to be either Smith or Bivol. I'm telling you, it's going to be Bivol in my opinion. I feel strongly it's going to be Bivol for Canelo in May. All right, guys, take it easy. Have a good day. Stay safe. Make sure you check out the roundtable on Maestro's channel this week coming up, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Shout out to Maestro Boxing, Maestro A Boxing in the chat. Shout out to D-Style Boxing. Shout out to all the HCP, Dave 408, all the guys over at Drew, all the guys over on the HCP network, Nancy, Women Crushing It Wednesdays. Everybody, peace out, everybody. Have a good day. Take care and stay safe. And I will talk to you soon. And make sure you check out the Ringside Reporter podcast every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern time with myself and Eric Lauder. Make sure you click the link in the description box to get your Manscaped gear. Use the code Ringside Reporter, get 20% off, as well as free shipping. And Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.